Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Michael Malik here with the Hurricane Outlook and discussion for July 7th, 2020, recorded around 4:11 p.m. Eastern Time. Well, real quickly, right before we get into the meat and potatoes of this video, if you guys do want to skip forward, I will leave a time link in the description down below, a timestamp in the description down below for you guys to skip forward. But otherwise, this is basically going over our unmanned camera system project and what we've been recording over the last day. I will let the video now take over. So as you guys saw, that was basically what we are doing with our unmanned camera system project and our hurricane cameras that are designed to run for now up to 13 plus hours. We are just now on our final phase of testing with only a few days left. So if you guys do want to go follow me and support what I'm doing, first go follow me here on YouTube and go subscribe to our channel, and then go follow me on Twitter, and the links to that will be in the description down below. Now, to the rest of the video outlook and discussion, this is the sea surface temperature anomalies last updated as of yesterday, July the 6th. Again, we continue to notice this area of persistent cooling out here, and this will continue to persist over the next several months to probably the next almost year or so, and this is likely to continue to head into almost that La Nina background-ish state, and that will likely continue into the peak of the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season. And on the flip side of that, in the main development region of the Atlantic Basin, very warm sea surface temperatures, about 0.5 degree to 1 degree Celsius above the long-term average. You can see this very clear, pronounced sort of phase 1 pattern of the Atlantic multi-decadal oscillation. And this is basically how warm a positive phase and how warm above the long-term average this is. This is our positive phase 1, typically favoring the main development region in the southwestern Atlantic, and that is very well pronounced on here. Some slight cooling because of the Saharan air layer across the deep tropics over the last couple of days or so, but that will rebound very quickly with time. And the upper ocean heat content values, and this is especially important, let's update it as of this morning, and this is kind of the measuring of how deep down does that 80 degree isotherm go in the oceanic environment per se. And this area out and through here is especially warm. If you take a look, this is basically on the upper third of the distribution here, on the upper third of the scale. Very significant in terms of the upper ocean heat contents. If something does come along in the Caribbean and take advantage of that, which is certainly a given possibility this year, it will have rocket fuel to take really advantage of that. All else being in a favorable environment. Notice down here in the deep tropics in the main development region, that upper ocean heat content value is now continuing to lift further to the north, and this is only going to get pulled further north as the intertropical convergence zone, or the ITCZ zone, which is basically a convergence zone from the easternlies and westernlies. These will end up kind of bouncing this further up to the north, and we'll likely see this area warm in over the next several weeks or so, and continuing into the peak of the the Atlantic hurricane season. Notice here in the Gulf of Mexico, this area, pretty significant upper-ocean heat content as well, now starting to develop out there in the western half of the Atlantic Basin. If this was here when Tropical Storm Cristobal was coming through this area, it certainly probably would have had a chance to strengthen more than it did. So we're kind of lucky that, this area wasn't there when Cristobal was there. But you notice out here in the Bahamas and the Caribbean, really, this area is just rocket fuel. And we are quite a bit above 2017 for the upper ocean heat content at this point. So we want to bring it to the attention, not as necessarily anything to hype over or anything. We don't want to kind of cause any hype or panic. No reason to do that, because it doesn't achieve anything. However, obviously this area is very significant in terms of the upper ocean heat content. Basically, everywhere I'm highlighting has decent upper ocean heat content values. The Caribbean and the southwestern Atlantic main development region, this area right in through here, no exception. And then obviously the Gulf Stream out and through here as well. So very warm. It is exceptionally warm, and we're going to be heading into a busy season, no doubt about that. And we'll take a look at that here in a minute. But to the sea surface temperatures, the actual skin temperatures at the top of the surface of the ocean, this is coming off the CDAS methodology from tropicaltidbits.com, initialized and analyzed at 7 o'clock this morning. And you do notice that this area down here in the southwestern Atlantic, off the Florida, off the Florida Straits and the Florida coast there, water temperatures running near 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Again, very warm, about 88, 90 degrees Fahrenheit in this area, with some even, not really showing up on this kind of global resolution, but some of the water temperatures have been reported by buoys to be up about 93 to 94 Fahrenheit. So very, very warm in the skin layer. And obviously, if we go back to the upper ocean heat content values, very warm in through here as well. Very high upper ocean heat content in the southwestern Atlantic and off the Florida peninsula, basically right off of there. So, I'm just saying that if something comes along to take advantage of that, if it's a full-fledged hurricane, look out below. And that's what we're really seeing. You notice also out here in the Caribbean near the Lesser Antilles here in Barbados, 29 Celsius. Water temperatures in this area are more than supportive of tropical cyclones and will be now for the remainder of the hurricane season. So basically this area is basically nullified now. This area is void of having any significant setbacks. Besides the wind shear, we are all lights a go now for this area to really be favorable in the coming weeks or so for the upcoming Atlantic hurricane season. And it does look like it will be very busy. And to kind of pressure on that, this is looking off the NMME precipitation anomaly. I think it's the North American multi-model consensus something precipitation anomaly for August, September, and October forecast, July minus June. So basically it is forecasting basically the forecast is in July. It's not, it's voiding June. But basically everywhere and this is contrary of Eric Webb on Twitter, by the way. But again, all of this brownish anomalies here, that's your drier than normal precipitation, and your green here is the wetter. It's basically very, very simplified by Eric Webb here. Drier in the brownish here, wetter in the green. And again, this is kind of what you're really seeing here. Drier in the southwestern Atlantic. Now, some could say, oh, the Cabo Verde Islands, but, one is not necessarily, really trying to pinpoint the exact locations. The bottom line, you notice that the southwestern main or the southern main development region is very wet above the long-term average, and that kind of tracking in the Caribbean and some right here in the Gulf of Mexico as well. Not really seeing any, signs of a recurve pattern like that. You might be seeing a little bit through here, maybe, but again, what you're really seeing is that this is a above normal precipitation anomaly. This would suggest more rainfall, more African easterly waves, AEWs that come off of Africa. And this is kind of in response to that very strong African easterly jet, the AEJ, being very strong. That was part of the reason, combined with these stronger than normal tropical waves, that was part of the reason why we had this very intense pattern with the Saharan air layer that came off and, was really pushing it. That was one of the reasons for that. And again, this area is expected to be quite a bit above the long-term average. And this just kind of goes to show, this is coming from Phil Clockspot over at Colorado State University. Basically, the 1 month percentage of the normal rainfall, and we are looking in Africa, the greens are generally the above normal, and in some cases we're looking at about 200% of the normal rainfall. So if you take, maybe 10 inches or so, you're getting about 20 inches. And this is the period from June 1st all the way through the 30th of June. So this is a whole month time frame. And most of Africa, here in the area that counts where these African easterly waves form and track across, about 200% in some cases above the normal precipitation amount for that time frame. So that is a very significant amount, and we're seeing the signs of something trying to get going here in the tropical, Atlantic over the next several weeks or so, that the time frame is going to be becoming more and more favorable. We're heading into a more favorable time frame, and this is certainly one of the things that we really have to pay attention to, because this is going to play into how our hurricane season actually pans out. But this is a really telling sign here when you have these rainfall amounts that are 200, in some cases 200 to nearly 400% above the long-term average. You're getting very high, and you notice some areas out here are over 600 above the long-term average. Over here, about 600% above, the average 1 month percentage of the normal rainfall. So it's been very, very wet. In some cases, you're seeing that 600% of that normal rainfall, it's above average. And when you have that combined with these, tropical waves, stronger than normal tropical waves, the environment just being more favorable, the sea surface temperature profile, this is spelling trouble when we get to the peak of the Atlantic hurricane season if this pattern continues. And as such, this is the updated forecast from Colorado State University and Phil Clockspot and his team, releasing their new 2020 seasonal forecast for the Atlantic hurricane season. As of July 7th, this forecast calls for 20 named storms, which the average is 12, and this already includes Arthur, Bertha, Cristobal, and Eduardo, the 5 named storms that have already formed, so we have 15 more named storms to go. The forecast range is about 16 to 23 named storms. 9 hurricanes, very significant there, and 4 major hurricanes, and that range actually extends from 3 to 6 majors. So what this is really stemming from, we have 15 more named storms left to go, 9 hurricanes, and 4 majors, and an accumulated cyclone energy index of 160, which the average is 106. And this is basically pushing the bounds on a hyperactive hurricane season. And we talked about yesterday when I released my updated stuff there, kind of really talking about that. We'll actually pull that up here real quickly. The percentage stats here, we did talk about that being a 20% chance of a hyperactive season with a 65% chance of an above average season. And these are basically nullified now because, there's almost no chance that we're going to have an average season or a below normal season at all. It is likely going to be an above average season. The hyperactive, we did increase it, so that is certainly one of the things, and that was very well represented by this accumulated cyclone energy, ACE index of 160 from Phil Clockspot and his team. The general bottom line message is this is going to be a very significant above average hurricane season, and it is going to be here. And now's the time to take precautions. Now's the time to take, advantage of the little bit of a lull that we have before things really get kicking off within the next few weeks, and then continuing on throughout the remainder of July, August, September, and October. Because let me tell you here first, you do not want to be caught in a last-minute desperation situation where you're now going to the store a day or two before a hurricane hits. You're panicking. We don't want anyone to panic. You tend to make, less smarter decisions if you panic. The best advice right now is to prepare now while you can, while you have the time. Very important to do that. Very important to understand. We want you to be here. I want you to be here. And that's the most important things, saving life and mitigating property loss. Now, on to what's going on here in the tropical Pacific. We do have Tropical Storm Christina, which did form overnight Sustained winds are 40 miles per hour, moving west-northwest at 13. No significant concerns to the Baja of California or the Cabo San Lucas resort areas. Basically, this area over here, no land concerns. But however, this will generate some swells. So if you are down in the Cabo San Lucas resort areas or the Baja of California, or even some of the California Gulf there, and or Central America coastline and the coastline of Mexico, this will be sending some surfs kind of radiating out. This will kind of generate some swells that kind of come into this area. So if you are around this area, any surfers, this will be a good time to take advantage of the surf conditions, as this will likely be the Eastern Pacific's first hurricane and could become the first major hurricane of the Eastern Pacific Basin. Again, this will likely, in all intents and purposes, stay well away from land before this finally kind of weakens out here and is no significant concern. However, again, if you are an unexperienced swimmer or anything, be mindful down here in the Cabo San Lucas resort areas in the Baja, California, that there will be some increased swells, increased rip current potential. So again, make sure you pay attention to local officials there and your beach forecast, because this is going to be an important event, especially for the people who love surfing. This will generate some swells, but again, all in all, if you're unexperienced and don't know what you're doing, my best advice is, stay out of the water. Go to the beach, but stay out of the water. Again, depending on how everything's going right now down there, but just stay out over the next few days or so, because you will have some increased swells. But if you're a surfer, pay attention to what you're doing. Go out there and enjoy it. It's going to be a really fun time, I do believe, out there, as this is going to kick up some pretty good swells for the Cabo San Lucas resort areas in the Baja. Speaking of the tropical storm Christina, I almost kind of butchered that name there, so my apologies. But again, speaking of Christina, we do have that tropical storm now. Again, you do notice how it has been a little bit kind of decoupled. Our low-level vortex is actually right here, and there is a little bit of shear, and most of the energy is actually kind of consolidated around here. So my guess here is that there might be a center reformation somewhere in this area. And my reasoning is, if we can get a pretty good bundlement of the energy down here, we'll probably be seeing a center reformation to the south and west of this. So we'll see, because this lower level center is moving west-northwest here, but it has pretty devoid convection. Now, there is some convection around it here off to the north and east of the system, some to the south and west. The main pocket of energy is actually down here, and it does look like that maybe something might be trying to consolidate down there. So our system might be trying to come out with another center reformation here. We'll just have to kind of wait and see on that. But either way, no significant land threats at all. Now, in the Atlantic Basin, we do have Invest 98L. This is expected to bring some heavy rain to portions of the Carolina coastline and mid-Atlantic states over the next few days or so. A 40% chance of development over the next 5 days from the Hurricane Center, and Recon is expected to go out there tomorrow and start doing their reconnaissance missions out here into 98L. I do believe so, but again, this will likely become the Eastern, or this will likely become a system that will be mainly a rainfall threat. This will likely not be this will not be a hurricane or anything like that, but this could bring some very unpleasant weather for the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states and the Carolina coastline over the next few days or so. So be mindful of that, but no significant concern in terms of wind impacts, but some gusty winds may be possible from time to time, but otherwise than that, there is no significant wind concerns at this time. For the Eastern Pacific Basin or the Atlantic, but again, we'll be watching 98L here over the next few days or so. And taking a look here from tropicaltidbits.com, this is the GFS 850 millibar vorticity, spinning the atmosphere about 5,000 feet off the ground. You're looking at a wide angle shot here, basically from Africa to the Eastern Pacific Basin, here in the intertropical convergence zone, which is stretched out about right there. And what we're really looking for is signatures like you're seeing over here. This is Christina over here, expected to become a hurricane over the next few days. Again, this is 98L, and we've been talking about this over the last several days or so, that this is actually the remnants here of Aguardo moving over towards Ireland and should be maybe a rainfall threat for over there. But This is kind of one of the things that we've been talking about. This is kind of going to be depleting some of this area of high pressure out here, but the high pressure ridge is kind of trying to build back in over top of it, and that's kind of being one of the things that eventually forces, you notice how the high pressure ridge kind of builds back over here and kind of sends this high pressure dome basically in not allowing this thing to come out over land, over water rather. So this stays a rather a nebulous system, bringing some heavy rainfall and maybe some gusty winds, but not really seeing anything in the model fields that suggests that this is going to have significant time over water to be able to really strengthen. Now, it is going to be entering the Gulf Stream, in which water temperatures there, 28, 29 Celsius, so very warm, but we're not really seeing anything that's really going to be a significant concern. We are also watching out here in the main development region as a tropical wave. You can clearly see that kind of tail and that wave axis in through here. We'll be watching that over the next several days or so, but no significant concerns right now. We're also watching a couple of other areas that kind of might be trying to bundle, but again, we're not really seeing anything as of right now that's really significantly concerning in the deep tropics at all. We're just really not seeing that. It's just kind of really not that time quite yet to be significantly looking out there into the deep tropics. But again, even out here into hour 246 and then hour 252 and beyond, really the eastern Pacific Basin here over the next few days to a week or so is probably going to be the most active, and the European forecast model is generally consistent with that. Now, the European does try to intensify this cyclone a little bit more, 98L to maybe become something up in here. But again, that's kind of, 96 hours away, almost, 120 hours. So that is a little bit far out in time. But you notice what it is picking up. This tropical wave out here off the Cabo Verde Islands, same as the GFS forecast, it is picking up that tropical wave. And, even carrying this tropical wave out here towards the end of the forecast period that, looks rather decent, out to hour 216. Now, that's really far out in time, and some might question, well, why are you looking out that far? Well, the signs are there. The background environment that we talked about in the beginning of this video, it's there. The signs are there. The pattern is starting to change. And now you got to look at the models and say, oh, well, do the models make sense? And they show these tropical waves coming off at a little bit of a higher latitude, more organized. Does that make sense with the background environment? It sure does. It makes sense with climatology. We're heading up to the peak, to the ramp up to the peak of the Atlantic hurricane season. The time is here, folks, and it's time to take this hurricane season seriously if you haven't already. So now's the time to prepare while you can. We don't want to hype anything up. We don't want to make anything bigger than it is. We don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill. However, we do want you to be prepared. We do want you to stay weather aware. We want to make sure that you mitigate property loss and make sure that you keep your life. That's the most important thing. A home can always be rebuilt. A life cannot. So we want you guys to take this season very seriously. It only takes one, and again, this season looks to be quite a bit above the long-term average and above average season. So, a lot to talk about, but hope you guys did enjoy this video. Again, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, everything. We'll be coming out with more information about our unmanned camera system project. Our testing phase is almost over. We are getting ready now to gear up to go operational for these unmanned camera system projects. So a quick reminder, if you guys do want to follow me and support me, make sure to go follow me here on YouTube, subscribe to our channel, and go follow me on Twitter at Mike Romali1. All right, hope you all have a great rest of your afternoon and evening. Of course, I am Mike Romali, and I will see you guys back here then tomorrow afternoon. Stay safe, everyone.